Daniel had walked the streets for years, but that morning was different. The cold air bit at his face, but it felt sharper than usual. He stopped for a moment, leaning against a street lamp, and looked up the quiet road. Something about the row of old houses made him pause. There it was, the mansion. He had seen it in pictures before, but nothing could match the way it stood in front of him now. Its large windows were dusty, some broken, the paint peeling from the walls, and yet it still held a certain grandeur that seemed untouched by time. Memories that he had tried to bury for decades rushed back uninvited. He remembered walking these same grounds when he was a young man, just starting out in life. The mansion had always seemed too big, too mysterious, but he had loved it. As the caretaker, he had keys to every door, access to every corner, and even the hidden spots that nobody else knew existed. He could remember the smell of fresh polish on the wooden floors, the glint of chandeliers under candlelight, and the quiet whispers of servants moving about in the background. It had felt like another world, a place where life had rules and structure, and Daniel had thrived within them. But life had a way of changing things. 30 years had passed, and Daniel's own life had changed too. He had lost his home, his family had drifted away, and the streets had become his new reality. Every day was a struggle to find food, a place to sleep, and the courage to keep going. Yet standing there looking at the mansion, he felt a strange pull. It was as if the house was calling him back, reminding him of the life he had once known, and the secrets he had kept locked away in his own heart. The mansion looked almost like a ghost now, quiet and still, but Daniel knew better. He had seen the way life moved within its walls, and he could almost feel the echoes of laughter and voices as he stood there. His hands went to the pockets of his worn coat, and he rubbed them together, trying to shake off the chill and focus on the present. But every step closer brought more memories. He walked slowly, his boots crunching on the gravel path, and noticed the garden. It was overgrown now, weeds pushing through the stone paths, roses untended and drooping. Daniel remembered tending to the garden with the old gardener, a kind man who had taught him the names of flowers and how to trim hedges with precision. He smiled faintly, even though his life had been full of hardship since those days. That garden had once felt like a sanctuary, a place where he could escape the pressures of his job and simply breathe. Daniel's eyes drifted to the side of the mansion. There, partially hidden by climbing ivy, was a small door he vaguely remembered. Back then, it had been easy to forget it, tucked away in the shadow of the main building, almost like it didn't belong there. He had never fully explored it, only glanced at it now and then, wondering what lay behind. Stories had swirled among the staff about that door, whispers of secret rooms and hidden treasures, but no one had ever dared to venture far. As he looked at it now, the door seemed to be waiting, as if it had been left for him, holding secrets of the past that only he could uncover. He stepped closer, the gravel crunching under his feet, and his heart beat faster. The mansion was quiet, too quiet, and the wind made the old shutters creak. Daniel hesitated for a moment, thinking about the years he had spent on the streets, the hunger, the cold nights, and the loneliness. Could it be that this old mansion, long abandoned, could offer him a glimpse of something different? A connection to a past he had long left behind? He remembered the first day he had walked into the mansion, full of hope and determination. He had been young, eager to prove himself, and the family had trusted him immediately. They had shown him the ropes, introduced him to the staff, and allowed him access to areas that even the other employees rarely saw. The mansion had been alive with movement, sound, and purpose, and yet there had always been a mystery lurking beneath it all, something Daniel had never quite understood. Now, standing in front of the same mansion decades later, he felt a mixture of fear and excitement. The door that had been hidden now seemed almost inviting, a challenge to the man he had become. He took a deep breath, the cold air filling his lungs, and reached out to touch the weathered wood. It felt rough under his fingers, warped slightly by time and neglect. He pushed gently, and the door groaned, a sound that echoed through the empty yard. It was still locked, but the lock looked old, brittle, and perhaps easier to open than it once had been. Daniel's mind wandered back to the days he had spent in the mansion. He remembered the late nights when he would stay behind to ensure everything was in order. The family had long since left, moving on to new places, new lives. But Daniel had stayed connected through the walls, through the memories etched into every room, every staircase, every corner. And now that connection seemed to be pulling him in, insisting that he step closer and discover what had been left behind. He crouched down, examining the lock more closely, remembering the small tricks he had learned as a young caretaker. He had been clever then, observant, patient. Skills that had Daniel stayed in the basement for a moment, letting his eyes adjust to the dim light. He could hear the wind outside rattling the old shutters and the quiet drip of water from somewhere deep within the mansion. Every sound felt amplified, echoing through the empty space, making the basement seem alive with secrets. He took a slow breath and began walking further in, his feet crunching on dust and small debris scattered across the floor. Memories of the past kept surfacing, and with every step he felt closer to the person he had been 30 years ago. He moved cautiously, keeping his flashlight steady. The basement was larger than he remembered, filled with stacks of crates, old furniture, and boxes that seemed to have been untouched for decades. Each item held a story. Daniel reached out and touched a wooden crate, running his fingers over the rough surface. The scent of aged wood and dust filled his nostrils, and he could almost picture the family that had once moved around here, their lives playing out in ways he had only glimpsed. Daniel remembered how he had learned to navigate the basement as a young caretaker. He had been curious then, but respectful, never wanting to cross boundaries. The family had trusted him, and he had taken that trust seriously. He remembered the thrill of discovering small corners and hidden nooks, places that nobody else seemed to notice. It was a different kind of freedom, a way to explore without being seen, to uncover secrets that belonged only to him. As he walked further, his flashlight caught a glimpse of something unusual. A small door tucked in the far corner, partially hidden by stacks of boxes and an old wooden cabinet. He had no recollection of it from his younger days, but it immediately drew his attention. Something about it seemed important, almost as if it had been waiting for him to find it. The wood was darker here and the edges were worn, suggesting it had been opened long ago, then forgotten. His heart raced as he approached it. He pushed some of the boxes aside and knelt down to examine the door more closely. The hinges were old and rusted, but the lock looked fragile. Daniel remembered the techniques he had learned so many years ago, how to gently maneuver a lock without causing damage. He worked carefully, the lock giving way with a soft click. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into deeper darkness. The air was colder here, carrying a musty scent that spoke of long neglect. He shivered, but excitement replaced fear. He was about to uncover something that had been hidden for decades. Daniel took the first step down, his flashlight illuminating the worn stone stairs. Each step brought a sense of anticipation, mixed with the nervousness of entering an unknown space. He could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. The basement had always held secrets, but this deeper space felt different, almost sacred. He reached the bottom and found himself in a small chamber, walls lined with shelves and crates. Everything was covered in dust, yet there was a sense of careful organization. Whoever had used this space had done so deliberately, with intention. He moved slowly, examining each shelf. Old books with cracked spines, faded photographs, and letters tied with string. He picked up a photograph and held it in the light, squinting to see the details. It was a picture of the mansion as it once was, vibrant and full of life, with the family standing proudly in front. Daniel traced the edges of the photograph with his fingers, feeling a connection to the people in the image. He did not know them personally, yet their lives had intersected with his in ways that mattered. He could see the laughter frozen in that moment, the pride and warmth that had once filled the home. Daniel continued to explore, uncovering letters and journals tucked away in boxes. The handwriting was elegant and precise, the ink faded with time. As he read through them, he began to understand a story that had been hidden for years. The family had their struggles, disagreements, and fears, much like any other household. But there was also love, care, and moments of joy that had been carefully recorded and preserved in this secret chamber. Daniel felt a strange kinship with these people he barely knew, their lives echoing some of his own hopes and regrets. Among the items, he discovered small trinkets and keepsakes, watches, jewelry, and even delicate porcelain figurines. Each object seemed to hold a memory, a fragment of a life once lived. He handled them gently, as if touching them roughly could disturb the past. Some of the items were clearly valuable, not just in money but in history, a tangible connection to a time that no longer existed. Daniel marveled at how well preserved everything was, considering the years that had passed. It was as if the family had wanted someone to find these treasures, someone who would understand their importance. As he moved deeper into the chamber, Daniel noticed a large trunk tucked in the corner, partially hidden under a dusty cloth. It looked heavier than anything else in the room, and he had to use all his strength to lift the lid. Inside, he found documents, ledgers, and even more personal items, handwritten letters, passports, and old coins. It was clear that this trunk had been a repository for the most important possessions, carefully guarded from view. Daniel felt a sense of awe as he sifted through the contents. Each piece told a story, revealing a layer of the mansion's past that had been carefully concealed. Time seemed to lose meaning as Daniel explored the hidden chamber. Hours could have passed, or maybe only minutes. He felt a connection to the mansion, to its history, and to the people whose lives had intersected with his own so long ago. The basement was no longer just a forgotten space. It was a living archive, holding memories, secrets, and treasures that had waited patiently for someone to uncover them. Daniel's thoughts wandered to his own life. He had spent so many years struggling, unseen and unheard, wandering the streets without recognition or purpose. Yet here, in this forgotten chamber, he felt valued, even if only by the memories preserved around him. He realized that he had a role to play, a responsibility to honor the past and perhaps even to share it with the world. The mansion, once a symbol of a life he had lost, now offered a chance to reconnect, to find meaning, and to reclaim a sense of self that had been buried under years of hardship. He paused to rest, leaning against a shelf and letting his flashlight illuminate the room. Dust motes danced in the beam of light, and Daniel felt a strange peace. He knew that there were more discoveries to be made, more secrets to uncover, but for now he allowed himself to simply be present in the space. He listened to the quiet, feeling the weight of history around him, and for the first time in a long while he felt a sense of belonging. As he continued to explore, Daniel noticed small details that spoke volumes about the people who had lived here. Handwritten notes tucked into books, markings on the shelves, and even the careful arrangement of objects all hinted at lives full of intention and care. He marveled at the thoughtfulness, the effort to preserve these memories, and the hope that someone would one day appreciate them. It struck him that this basement was not just a storage space, but a testament to human connection, memory, and love. Daniel spent hours moving from shelf to shelf, crate to crate, uncovering the stories hidden within. Each discovery brought a mixture of emotions: joy, curiosity, sadness, and wonder. He felt as if the mansion itself was speaking to him, guiding him through the past, showing him what had been valued and cherished. And in return, he felt a sense of responsibility, a duty to honor these memories and ensure they were not lost to time. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows through the cracks in the walls, Daniel reluctantly realized it was time to pause. He had uncovered a wealth of history, and there was still so much more to explore. The basement had revealed its secrets slowly, patiently, allowing him to connect with a world that had once been vibrant and alive. He took a deep breath, feeling the cool, musty air fill his lungs, and promised himself that he would return. With one last look around the chamber, Daniel carefully closed the small door at the far corner and replaced the boxes as they had been. He stepped back onto the worn stone stairs, the echo of his footsteps reverberating through the space. He felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration, knowing that this was only the beginning of his journey. The mansion, with all its hidden corners and untold stories, had welcomed him back, and Daniel felt ready to uncover whatever else had been waiting for him for 30 long years. Carved him well back then, and Daniel returned to the mansion the next morning, the chill in the air no longer feeling uncomfortable but almost comforting. The memory of the basement, the hidden chamber, and the treasures within stayed with him all night. He had walked the streets for so long that life felt aimless at times, but now, the mansion offered a purpose, a reason to wake up with a sense of curiosity and hope. As he approached the side door, he could see the small hidden door partially obscured by debris and ivy. It felt familiar, yet every time he looked at it, it held new secrets waiting to be uncovered. He knelt and began to clear away the ivy and broken pieces of wood that had fallen over the door. Each movement felt deliberate, almost reverent. The door had been neglected for decades, but in Daniel's hands it felt alive again, as if it remembered him and was welcoming him back. With a soft push, the door opened and he stepped into the basement. The air smelled damp but also carried a faint trace of old wood and polish. The flashlight in his hand cut through the darkness, highlighting dusty shelves and boxes stacked neatly along the walls. He felt a thrill that he hadn't experienced in years, a sense that he was about to uncover something truly remarkable. Moving carefully, Daniel approached one of the large crates he had noticed the day before. His hands ran over the rough wood and he could feel the weight of history within it. With some effort, he lifted the lid and peered inside. His eyes widened as he saw old books, letters, and photographs neatly organized. Each item seemed to tell a story, a piece of the mansion's past preserved with care. He picked up a letter, its edges yellowed and fragile, and read the elegant handwriting. The words revealed a glimpse of the family's daily life, their worries and moments of happiness. Daniel felt a connection to these people, strangers though they were, as if their stories were intertwined with his own. As he moved further, Daniel discovered a collection of small boxes, each carefully labeled. Opening one, he found delicate porcelain figurines, each painted with fine detail. They were miniature representations of the family and the people who had served them, each telling a story of a life that had been cherished and remembered. He handled them gently, aware of their fragility, and imagined the family admiring them in days long past. There was a sense of intimacy in the objects, a feeling that they had been placed with love and intention, waiting for someone to appreciate them once more. Daniel explored every corner of the basement with care. He discovered old journals, photographs tucked into books, and personal letters that revealed the private lives of the mansion's former residents. The more he uncovered, the more he felt the weight of history around him. He realized that the basement was not just a storage space but a sanctuary for memories, a hidden world where the past had been preserved with patience and care. The objects and writing spoke to him, offering insight into lives he had once observed from the margins now brought into focus. Among the items, Daniel noticed a collection of maps and blueprints. They detailed the layout of the mansion and the surrounding property, including secret passages and hidden rooms that he had never seen before. His heart raced as he realized the potential for discovery. The mansion had been full of secrets, and now he had the chance to explore them fully. Each blueprint and map represented a puzzle piece, waiting for him to connect the dots and uncover the hidden history of the place he had once cared for. Daniel spent hours moving from crate to crate, examining the treasures he found. Each object was a piece of a larger story, a glimpse into the lives of people who had lived, loved, and struggled within the walls of the mansion. He felt a sense of awe and responsibility, knowing that these items had been preserved for a reason. Perhaps it was fate that he had returned, that someone who understood the value of the past had come back to honor it. He felt that his own life, full of hardship and survival, was somehow connected to this hidden history, and it gave him a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in decades. As he worked, Daniel found a trunk tucked into a corner, partially hidden beneath a dusty cloth. It was heavy, and he had to use all his strength to lift the lid. Inside, he discovered an assortment of items that seemed to be the most important possessions of the family. There were letters detailing family affairs, ledgers recording transactions, and personal mementos that revealed intimate details about their lives. He carefully handled each piece, reading and examining them, piecing together the story of a family that had once called this mansion home. Each discovery deepened his connection to the place, making him feel as if he were part of a larger story. Daniel noticed that some of the items held real value. Antique coins, rare collectibles, and even pieces of jewelry were carefully tucked away, preserved in pristine condition. He marveled at the foresight of the family, who had hidden these treasures with the knowledge that they might one day be found. The basement was not just a storage space but a time capsule, a carefully constructed archive of lives lived, decisions made, and secrets kept. It was as if the family had known that someone like Daniel would return, someone who would appreciate the history and the significance of what had been left behind. He continued to explore, finding small notes and inscriptions that provided context for the items he uncovered. Each discovery added depth to the story, revealing hidden relationships, personal struggles, and moments of triumph. Daniel felt a sense of connection and empathy for the people who had lived here. He realized that the mansion, with all its grandeur and mystery, had been a place of ordinary human experiences. Love, loss, joy, and sorrow. These objects and letters brought those experiences to life, making the past tangible and real. As the day wore on, Daniel became more absorbed in the exploration. He carefully documented what he found, taking notes and photographs, ensuring that he could preserve the information for the future. He knew that the stories held within the basement were too important to be forgotten again. Each item, each letter, each photograph was a piece of history that deserved to be shared, a narrative that connected the past to the present. Daniel felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing that he was contributing to the preservation of this hidden world. He paused to rest, sitting on a crate and letting the light from his flashlight sweep over the basement. Dust motes floated in the air, and the quiet of the space was almost meditative. Daniel reflected on his own life, the years of struggle and survival on the streets and the loneliness he had endured. Yet here, surrounded by the preserved memories of others, he felt a sense of belonging. The basement had become a sanctuary, a place where he could connect with history, with people he had never met, and with himself. It was a reminder that even in the most forgotten corners, life and meaning could be found. Daniel's attention was drawn to a small cabinet in the corner, its doors slightly ajar. Inside, he discovered a collection of photographs and documents that seemed to hold personal significance. There were family portraits, images of the mansion during lively gatherings, and snapshots of ordinary moments frozen in time. He studied each photograph carefully, imagining the lives of the people depicted, their hopes, fears, and dreams. The connection he felt was profound, as if he were touching the essence of a world that had once been vibrant and alive. He continued to move through the basement, uncovering hidden compartments and secret spaces that had been carefully concealed. Each discovery added to the richness of the story, revealing layers of history that had been preserved with care. Daniel marveled at the foresight and dedication of those who had hidden these items, understanding that they had wanted someone to appreciate the past, someone to honor the memories they had left behind. It was a reminder that even in the face of time and neglect, history could endure. As the afternoon sun began to fade, Daniel realized that he had spent hours in the basement, yet there was still so much more to explore. He carefully replaced the boxes and documents as he had found them, ensuring that the space remained undisturbed. He took one last look around, feeling a sense of satisfaction and anticipation. The mansion had revealed its secrets gradually, and he knew that there were more discoveries to be made. The hidden chamber, the crates, the documents, all of it was a treasure trove of history waiting to be fully understood. Daniel stepped out of the basement, the cool evening air filling his lungs. He looked back at the mansion, its silhouette dark against the fading light. He felt a sense of connection and purpose, knowing that he had begun a journey that would continue for days, perhaps weeks. The basement had offered him more than just objects and documents. It had given him a sense of direction, a reason to engage with the world around him, and a connection to a past that had seemed lost forever. As he walked away from the mansion that evening, Daniel felt a renewed sense of determination. He would return, he decided, to uncover more of the hidden stories, to piece together the full history of the mansion and the family who had lived there. The basement had opened a door not only to the past but also to his own future. For the first time in many years, he felt alive, curious, and connected to something greater than himself, ready to embrace the discoveries that awaited him in the days to come, might still help him now. As his fingers, Daniel returned to the mansion early the next morning, the air still crisp and carrying the faint scent of dew and earth. The street was quiet, with only a few early risers and the distant hum of traffic in the background. As he approached the hidden basement door, he felt a mixture of anticipation and calm. The previous days had revealed so much, but he knew that there were still secrets left to uncover. The mansion, though quiet and seemingly abandoned, had a life of its own, and Daniel could feel its history calling him forward. He knelt and brushed away debris from the small door, lifting it carefully. The basement air greeted him once more, carrying the familiar mix of dust, aged wood, and faint traces of polish. He shone his flashlight across the room, illuminating the shelves, crates, and boxes that he had begun to explore in earlier visits. Every object seemed to hold a story, and Daniel felt a deep sense of responsibility for preserving and understanding them. Today he wanted to delve even deeper, to uncover layers of the mansion's past that had remained hidden. He began by revisiting the large trunk in the corner, the one filled with letters, documents, and personal items. Daniel carefully sifted through the contents, organizing them and making mental notes of anything that might reveal more about the family who had once lived here. Each letter and document seemed to speak directly to him, offering glimpses into relationships, decisions, and the challenges that had shaped the household. The more he read, the more he felt the connection between the past and his own life, a thread linking him to a world long gone. While examining the trunk, Daniel noticed a smaller box tucked beneath a stack of papers. It was plain with no markings, yet it seemed significant. He opened it slowly, and inside he found a collection of antique coins, rare jewelry, and small trinkets. Some were ornate, crafted with intricate detail, while others were simple but clearly cherished. Daniel handled them with care, feeling the weight of history in his hands. These items had been hidden deliberately, preserved for a reason, and Daniel understood that he was now a part of that story, entrusted with safeguarding it. He continued to move through the basement, his flashlight revealing hidden compartments and shelves he had not noticed before. In one corner, behind a stack of boxes, he discovered a small alcove built into the wall. Inside were photographs, old ledgers, and journals. The photographs depicted the mansion and its residents during lively gatherings and quiet moments alike. Daniel studied each image, imagining the lives of the people captured within. The journals contained personal reflections, documenting thoughts, events, and relationships. He felt a deep empathy for the individuals, sensing their joys and struggles as if they were his own. One journal in particular caught his attention. It belonged to a member of the family who had been deeply involved in preserving the mansion's history. The pages described careful plans to protect valuable items, document family stories, and even hide secrets in the basement. The writing was meticulous and detailed, showing a desire to ensure that the family's legacy would survive, even if the mansion itself fell into disrepair. Daniel was struck by the foresight and care that had gone into these plans, realizing that this hidden space was more than storage. It was a deliberate archive of a life lived fully and thoughtfully. As he explored, Daniel found more unusual items. Old keys, locked boxes, and even an assortment of paintings rolled carefully and stored upright. He gently unrolled a painting, revealing a portrait of the family seated together in the mansion's parlor. The expressions captured in the painting were warm, full of life, and full of unspoken stories. Daniel felt as if the room he stood in had become a bridge between past and present, a place where time was layered and memory was tangible. Each item reinforced the sense that the basement had been preserved with intention, almost as if waiting for someone who would understand its significance. Daniel paused to examine a small set of maps he found tucked behind a shelf. They showed the mansion's layout, the surrounding grounds, and even hidden paths and rooms. As he traced the lines with his finger, he realized that there were areas he had never explored, places that had been carefully concealed from view. The maps hinted at secrets within secrets, and Daniel felt a renewed sense of purpose. There was more to discover, more stories to piece together, and he was determined to follow every lead. He carefully moved through the basement, documenting his findings as he went. Each photograph, letter, journal, and item was a clue, a piece of a larger puzzle. Daniel began to imagine the lives of the family members, how they had lived, celebrated, and struggled within these walls. The mansion, through its hidden basement, was revealing the depth and complexity of a world that had been preserved but almost forgotten. Daniel felt privileged to witness it, to connect with it in a way that few others could. As he continued, he found a small chest hidden beneath an old wooden bench. Inside were documents related to financial transactions, legal papers, and personal correspondences. Some items indicated property arrangements, inheritance plans, and even unfulfilled dreams. Daniel studied them carefully, realizing that this basement held not only personal memories but also tangible evidence of the family's influence and choices. Each discovery added richness to the story, revealing a family that had navigated challenges and celebrated successes, and all while leaving traces behind in this hidden sanctuary. The deeper Daniel went into the basement, the more he felt a connection to the mansion itself. It was as if the walls, the floors, and the hidden spaces were all alive with the presence of those who had come before. The treasures, letters, and artifacts were more than objects. They were the essence of lives once lived, waiting to be understood and appreciated. Daniel realized that his own journey, his return to this place, was part of that continuity. a way to honor the past while bringing it into the present. He discovered more hidden compartments, some behind false panels in the walls, others beneath loose floorboards. Inside, he found heirlooms, antiques, and small tokens of affection. Each item told a story, revealing the personalities, preferences, and values of the people who had once called the mansion home. Daniel was struck by the care and thoughtfulness that had gone into preserving these objects, understanding that the family had intended for their history to endure, even after they were gone. It was a humbling experience, one that made him feel both grateful and responsible. Time passed unnoticed as Daniel worked, his mind fully absorbed in the exploration. The basement had become a place of discovery, reflection, and connection. Each item he uncovered added depth to the story of the mansion and its residents, and he felt a growing sense of purpose. He knew that he could not take everything with him, but he could document it, share it, and ensure that these hidden treasures and memories were preserved for the future. As the day drew to a close, Daniel carefully replaced the boxes and items where he had found them. He took one last look around, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and anticipation. The basement had revealed many secrets, but there were still more to uncover. Daniel knew that he would return, that this was only the beginning of a journey to understand the mansion, the family, and the history that had been preserved in this hidden space for so long. Stepping back into the fresh evening air, Daniel felt a sense of calm and accomplishment. The mansion, though silent and abandoned on the surface, had welcomed him back into its hidden world. The basement, with all its treasures and memories, had given him a renewed sense of purpose and connection. He understood that this journey was about more than objects. It was about the stories, the lives, and the human experiences that they represented. Daniel felt ready to continue, to uncover the remaining secrets, and to honor the past that had waited patiently for him to return. He felt a sense of purpose returning, a spark that had been missing for far too long. For a moment, he wasn't homeless, tired, or forgotten. He was Daniel. The man Daniel returned to the mansion early the next morning with a sense of purpose that had been absent from his life for decades. The cool air and the quiet streets gave him a strange sense of calm as he approached the hidden basement door. The past few days of exploration had revealed so much, yet he knew there was still more to uncover. Every object, every document, every photograph had told a part of the story, and he was determined to see it fully understood. Today, he felt, could be a turning point. He knelt before the door, brushing away debris and ivy, and gently pushed it open. The familiar musty smell of the basement welcomed him, and the beam of his flashlight cut through the dimness, revealing the stacks of boxes and shelves that had become his second home. Each corner seemed to hold a secret, and Daniel moved carefully as if he were walking through a sacred space. The treasures of the past were fragile, and he treated them with the reverence they deserved. He began by revisiting the items he had documented over the past days. Letters, journals, photographs, and heirlooms were carefully examined, and he took notes to ensure nothing was lost to time. He could feel the lives of the mansion's residents around him, their joys and sorrows embedded in the objects they had left behind. There was a sense of intimacy in the basement, a connection between the past and the present that made Daniel feel both humble and honored. He realized that his presence here was more than coincidence. It was destiny. While exploring a section of the basement he had not yet examined fully, Daniel found a large, locked chest hidden behind an old cabinet. The chest was heavy and the lock was intricate, but Daniel's experience as a caretaker allowed him to handle it with care. With careful attention, he opened it and found an astonishing collection of valuables: antique coins, rare jewelry, and intricate pieces of art. Each item was perfectly preserved, untouched for decades. Daniel felt a thrill of discovery and a deep appreciation for the foresight of the family who had hidden these treasures. They had trusted that someone worthy would one day uncover them. Among the valuables, he also found personal documents that revealed more about the family's hidden struggles and triumphs. There were letters discussing personal relationships, financial challenges, and moments of celebration. Daniel could sense the care and thoughtfulness in the writing, the desire to preserve memories for future generations. As he read, he felt a growing connection to the family, understanding their hopes, fears, and experiences. It was as if their lives were reaching out to him across the decades, offering insight, wisdom, and a reminder of the value of human connection. As he continued exploring, Daniel discovered a series of old ledgers and account books that detailed transactions, property records, and other aspects of the mansion's history. They provided a glimpse into the daily operations and decisions that had shaped the estate over the years. He carefully reviewed each document, piecing together a timeline of events and gaining a deeper understanding of the family's legacy. These records were more than numbers on a page. They were a testament to the lives lived, the challenges faced, and the careful planning that had gone into preserving the mansion and its contents. Daniel spent hours meticulously examining and documenting everything he found. Each item, whether a simple trinket or a significant artifact, added depth and texture to the story of the mansion. He felt a profound sense of responsibility to honor the past and ensure that the history he uncovered would not be forgotten. The basement had become more than a storage space. It was a living archive, a bridge between the past and the present, and Daniel was now its custodian. In the corner of the basement, he found a small, hidden compartment that contained letters and photographs that were particularly personal. They revealed intimate details of family life, relationships, and moments that had been meant to remain private. Daniel read them with care and empathy, feeling the emotions behind the words and images. He realized that this was the true treasure of the basement, not the valuable items, but the stories, the memories, and the human experiences preserved within. These documents and photographs allowed him to understand the family in a way that was deeply moving and personal. As the day progressed, Daniel felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. The basement had given him a sense of purpose and connection that he had not felt in years. He knew that he could not take the items with him, but he could document them, share their stories, and ensure that the history of the mansion and its residents would be remembered. Each discovery reinforced his sense of responsibility and his understanding of the importance of preserving the past. Daniel also realized that the mansion itself had become a symbol of resilience and continuity. Despite years of neglect and abandonment, it had preserved the memories, treasures, and stories of those who had lived there. The hidden basement was a testament to the family's foresight and care, and Daniel felt privileged to be part of that story. He understood that his journey was not only about uncovering the past, but also about honoring it and connecting it to the present. As the evening approached, Daniel carefully replaced all the items where he had found them, ensuring that the basement remained undisturbed. He took one last look around, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. The hidden chamber had revealed its secrets, offered its treasures, and shared its stories with him. He knew that this experience had changed him, giving him a renewed sense of purpose and a connection to history that would remain with him forever. Stepping out into the cool evening air, Daniel felt a profound sense of peace. The mansion, with its hidden basement and carefully preserved secrets, had welcomed him back into a world that few had ever seen. He realized that he had not only uncovered treasures and stories, but had also found a sense of belonging and identity. The mansion's past had become intertwined with his own, and he felt a responsibility to ensure that these stories would not be lost to time. Word of Daniel's discoveries eventually spread, attracting the attention of historians, collectors, and the media. The mansion, once forgotten and neglected, became a site of interest and preservation. Daniel, once invisible to the world, found himself recognized and respected for his role in uncovering and documenting the mansion's history. The hidden basement, with all its treasures and memories, had become a bridge between the past and the present, and Daniel was at the center of that connection. In the months that followed, the mansion was restored, and many of its secrets were shared with the public. Exhibits displayed the treasures Daniel had documented, and the stories of the family were told in a way that honored their lives and experiences. Daniel felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that he had played a vital role in